I don't know that I have something, but I have been praying for you, Kenny, that, you know, I know your heart beats for ministry, like all of ours, and you're wired for it, you're built for it, you train for it. And I've just been thinking about, like, I watched an Amazon worker yesterday work my daughter lives with her husband in a condo, and it's beautiful. I mean, the place is called Las Palmas, and it looks like it's manicured by Disney. Hot tubs and pools everywhere, and the place looks immaculate. But this Amazon worker came in with this truck, and there's doors everywhere, and she was literally sprinting, like up these stairs, down these stairs. She's looking for the elevator. There are no elevators. So she's like, okay, here we go. She like laced up her shoes and she took off, and she was like scanning and dropping and trying to be careful, and it's confusing. It's like 552, 553, but they're not next to each other. And I'm like, I don't understand who put this together. And she's asking me questions. I don't know anything. So, you know, so it made me immediately think of you. And, you know, is that what your UPS lifestyle feels like a little bit? Like, do you sprint through your days?
Well, UPS's policy is that we do not run, that we walk briskly and professionally.
UPS's policy is that we do not run, but we walk briskly.
And professionally.
That's interesting. And professionally.
Yeah.
Nice.
With purpose. Nice. With purpose. Okay. So, you know what? I feel like I'm through basic, you know?
Okay.
I feel like I'm through basic, where it's just all a lot really, really fast. That still happens sometimes. There's a lot of things I don't know how to do on their little, you know, proprietary device.
Yeah. I've signed that thing 1,000 times.
You what?
I've signed that thing 1,000 times.
Oh, now we put CD or CV for COVID, and then we just ask a last name and we slap it in there and call it good and walk away.
Thank goodness for COVID-19.
I know. So here's the deal for me. I'm on a business route that's like a pressure release for a veteran driver,
right?
So that they can focus on their residentials.
Yeah.
And then I get the business done. So I got Walmart, I got a grocery store, I got Albertsons on my list. I got a Western store, like Western Supply store. I got like 3 different medical facilities. So I get like screened for COVID almost every day. And then I just have little, you know, like a GameStop and dentist office and stuff like that. And then they throw in some apartments and some things like that. So yesterday, just in comparison, like we're in peak season now. Yesterday, I had less than 50 stops total. I was done quite easily by 2 p.m. I called into my on-road supervisor, my on-road soup, and said, hey, who can I help out? And they're like, help out Nate. Well, Nate trained me. So I call up Nate, meet up with Nate. Nate gives me 18 residential stops that I'm going to do in an hour. And then I'm going to get to my scheduled pickups. Okay. So I've never done 18 stops in an hour, but they were all close. So I knew it was possible, and I was able to accomplish it. Spoiler alert. So I asked Nate, I'm like, bro, how are you doing? And he's like, good. I go, how many stops did you have today? 350. An average UPS worker that's like good can do 15 to 20 stops in an hour. And he's got 350. What? Do the math. So I called him. I got done with that residential, which was a drop in the bucket, which is 1 hour out of his day. That's it. That's all I grasped from him. And he probably could have done what I did in 30 minutes. Right. So he took 10 minutes to be helping me get his stops onto my truck. And then I go do it. And then I get to my scheduled pickups and I go hit these places. And then I finish at the UPS store and I bring in all of whatever they've got at the UPS store from across town to the UPS center, get that in. And then last night, my on-road, this dude's a former like PD, sheriff, highway patrol guy. His name's Clayton. He's hardcore, dude. He's my brother's age. He's 39, big guy. He's got thighs the size of my 15-year-old boy, you know, cross country runner's legs. This guy's arms. He's like, okay, take that load of shiz over there. Take that load of shiz over there. Put it in your truck. If your dyad dies, take pictures of the barcodes. This one's in Meridian. This one's in Caldwell. Okay. I'm like, all right. So I went and did that. I got in, I reported to work at 9:30. I pulled into my house at 10 o'clock last night. Okay. So now I'm out on these like rando routes where I'm delivering like tires to residential addresses. I'm delivering these oversized packages that I've got to use a hand cart for to get to the door because they're either so awkward and long, or they're so big and thick, or they're so heavy that you just can't do it just by muscling it. And so I had a really good day. I had a really successful day yesterday. But it's just, if slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And if I just keep that mantra that they taught me, and I just keep clipping away. But my buddy Nate, that was at 2:30 when I left him, and he had done 105 stops. He was 15 stops behind his normal clip. And I called him when I went out last night. It was about 7:15, and he still had at least 100 stops to go.
Oh my word.
15 to 20 stops an hour. He had 100 stops to go, and it was 7:15, 7:20. So what they do is in UPS, you can only work a solid 14 hours in a row, and then you have to have a 10-hour break.
Like a truck driver.
But after 8 hours, you get time and a half. So I got 3 hours of time and a half last night.
Right.
So these guys, I met up with another guy that they had me deliver in his residential route, and he was coming, and I stopped. We talked real quick. He still had over 200 packages in his car, and it was 9 o'clock. So then they'll call him in, they'll roll it over to the next day in their truck, which is no different than today. So do you run? No, because you trip on ice, curbs, stairs, wires, lights, dog poo, like all this stuff. You hit tree limbs, you just, if you get all scattered. So I'm a very scattered, random, unsequential, not great with directions. Like this has been super challenging for me, but I'm getting it. And I'm finally able to help somebody else, and they're not having to send people to help me, at least the last couple days. So now I'm building relationships. Now I'm like, with the stops that I have, I take a little bit of time sometimes. I deliver to a Nazarene church. And they outed me yesterday. They're like, wait a minute. I pulled down my mask. I'm like, hey, I used to be on staff over this church over there. They're like, oh, I thought I knew you. You know, they're like, I thought I knew you. You know, and I'm like, yeah. And then I had a guy ask me the other day, I was picking up his airdrop from downtown where we live here. Like, I go get the air at the UPS store. I go to these other two trucks. They give me their air. I take it to the UPS center. If you don't make it on time, you're driving your truck to the Boise airport, and you're going to get the air there because it has to go out because people pay premium for that. Wow. I take their air to the UPS center. One of the dudes that was dropping off to me, he asked me what I did before this. And I was like, look, I'm going to tell you, but I don't want you to tell anybody. And he's like, okay. I'm like, I'm a pastor. That's like what I do. He's like,
he says, I thought you were going to say drug dealer.
Yeah, I know. Like, I used to be in prison. He looked at me, and this is what he said. He goes, I can see that. I'm like, I'm thinking we spent a cumulative 5 minutes together over the last month. This guy and I interacting, you know, he saw it. And then yesterday I bumped into a guy that's a helper on a truck at the same place. And I was in a Sunday school class with him and Mike Kipp 7 years ago when we came back from Australia. And I'm like, I know you. He's like, I got one of those faces. I'm like, no, you're the guy that said turkey bacon isn't real bacon in Mike Kipp's Sunday school class. And we had a big argument about it, you know? So anyway, I'm finally getting to a place where I'm like, okay, at the beginning of today, I know they're sending me back out. So here's what I call it. You know, I do this Mandalorian podcast thing. Boba Fett's my favorite Star Wars character. There's some Spartan stuff crossover there that I won't get into today, but we'll save that for another episode that you may or may not show up for. I call it Mando mode. Okay. It's You're done with your route. You're done with the day. It's 6:30. You just want to go home. But it's peak season and the experienced drivers aren't getting until 9 p.m. Like 25-year, 30-year vets aren't getting until 9 p.m. and they're working their tails off. So you're running, but it's like it's like a paced run where you can just
Yeah.
you figure out what you can maintain for the day and keep doing that. And then I have
Yeah.
highs and peaks and lows where it's like something doesn't work right, or you call back for something, or you got to help, whatever. Mando mode, headlamp, Christmas music playing in the U-Haul truck. Okay. Christmas music, sometimes hard rock, but mostly Christmas music. And then, I've got these pineapple habanero almonds. Boom, boom. And run gum that does a slow release of a spike of caffeine. Mando mode.
Wow. I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted. I haven't started work today yet, man.
Oh my gosh. When do you go in?
In an hour.
So you're gonna go from, what is that, your time? 9 to 9 tonight?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the deal. I know I can do it now.
Yeah.
I know how to map nav when my dyad dies. I know how to like find stuff. There's a pattern that once you find it with the businesses and the residentials, they can throw you in a place you haven't been before, and you just apply those things that you've picked up along the way and they taught you. Execute, just one stop at a time. Execute.
So how do they figure out what your capacity is? Like, they assigned you a certain amount of jobs, but they didn't assign the other dude. I mean, they doubled up his jobs. Like, how do they know? Do they just keep tracking your progress? Is there an algorithm?
Yeah, dude. I've been on the On-Road Soup's office, and they've got this. Yeah. They've got a war wall of where drivers are at and who needs help and who they paired up with them or tripled up with them. And then they've got a map that they can zoom out and they can see where all their trucks are at and who's next to who and where they're at in their in the dispensing of packages and how much volume they still have left.
So what are the vets doing right? What are the vets doing right that you're missing? Do they just know do they have the same route, or do they just, I mean, what kind of inside knowledge would you get that would help you, like, that makes this guy like superhero UPS driver?
Yeah, well, it's thanks for asking these questions. It feels so good to talk about this. There's like only so much.
I figure no one else cares.
My family can. Well, I mean, I know you don't care either, but at least you bother to ask, and I appreciate that. I appreciate
we
that.
care about you, and this is your life now. But no, it helps me pray. Like, I do try to visualize, you know, what it looks like when you're like just on a now I'll call it a slow sprint